Seeking to fuel a sectarian war over the Druze minority, Israel struck Damascus for the second time. This time, even near the presidential palace was targeted. In a very clear message, Netanyahu said, "The Israeli foreign minister is also calling for foreign intervention in Syria using the Druze as an excuse."
Israel attacked Syria for the second time using the Druze as an excuse, this time near the presidential palace in Damascus. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz issued a joint statement, a clear message to the Syrian regime. "We will not allow the deployment of Syrian forces south of Damascus or any threat to the Druze." Katz also posted a message on social media directly targeting Syrian President Ahmed Shara.
Syrian leader Ahmed Shara woke up this morning to the results of an attack by Israeli Air Force fighter jets. He understands that Israel is determined to prevent harm to the Druze in Syria. "It is our duty to protect the Druze in Syria."
Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sarsa made the same call for the Druze that he had previously made for the terrorist organization PKK-YPG. He asked the world to protect the Druze and openly called for foreign intervention in Syria.
"I urge the international community to fulfill its role in protecting minorities in Syria, especially the Druze, from the regime."
There is also a statement from the United States. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce said that steps must be taken to ensure the security of all communities in Syria. "The tension can be resolved through negotiations," she said. On the other hand, government security forces in Syria have deployed to checkpoints at the entrances of the Jaraman neighborhood in Damascus, where the Druze community is densely populated and which has been the scene of clashes in recent days. The clashes in the city of Sana'a ended after the security forces took the area under control. Security measures were increased in the city. The leaders of the Druze community in Syria expressed their opposition to the division of the country. In a statement, "United Syria is our honor, of which we are an indivisible part. We absolutely reject division, separation or rupture." The tension was sparked by an audio recording shared on social media on April 28th. In the audio recording, a person claiming to be from Sueda province, where the Druze community is concentrated, insulted the Prophet Muhammad. The social tension escalated into clashes when some armed Druze groups ambushed Syrian government security forces. At least 100 people were killed.
What is happening in Syria now? What is behind Israel's attacks on Syria? We will talk about this. Global Foreign News Director Suhaila Demir is with me. Welcome, Suhaila. Let me first ask you about the latest situation in Damascus. What is the current situation in the fighting? Are the Israeli attacks still going on?
The attacks from Damascus are not active at the moment, but the fact that they are recurring does not leave us optimistic that it will not happen again. So there is a possibility that it could happen again. As for the fighting in the countryside of Damascus, especially in the south, it has stopped for the moment, but the loss of life has increased. The beginning of Damascus nevertheless began on April 29th. Sultan Purify is a long process from April 29th to today, and in very critical areas, because in the immediate vicinity of the capital, in the areas where the Druze minority is concentrated, which points are we talking about? We are talking about the Sahara, and Seremain is the starting point of Seremain, and let's first specify how it started. An audio recording emerged, and it was said that it belonged to a Druze cleric and that he insulted the Prophet Muhammad. This, of course, is interpreted in a way that could fuel intersectarian conflict in Syria during a sensitive period. And really undesirable incidents, very dangerous incidents, incidents where common sense can be lost, erupt. At this point, when we ask who benefits the most from this, we see Israel. First of all, the person alleged to be the person mentioned in this audio recording said that, "No, it is not me." The Syrian Ministry of Interior also made an investigation, and they also confirmed it. And who revealed this audio recording? Is there a provocation here? Who could be the one who did this? Is it Israel? That's perhaps the easiest one to think of, given the sophisticated Israeli operation. against Hezbollah's pages. But as we said, these are suspicions, not proven cases. We know that in Arab countries like Syria, Lebanon, and Egypt, the issue of insulting the Prophet Muhammad is a very red line. There have been very bad incidents in Egypt before. In Lebanon, the American ambassador was killed. In 2012, clashes broke out over a movie insulting the Prophet Muhammad. Therefore, Israel is the country that reads the Middle East the best. Although we still can't say that Israel is definitely behind this, we can say that Israel is the party that is fueling this in line with its own interests.
There have already been statements, right? Netanyahu made a statement. The Israeli foreign minister is making statements. What are they saying?
Warnings and even threats are being conveyed. Israel does not recognize the new Syrian regime in Damascus. By using the term regime, it continues to equate it with the Assad regime and to state that it does not consider it legitimate. It has already continued its airstrikes during the war and after Assad's ouster. It almost destroyed Syria's entire defense force, and now it has launched airstrikes, this time under the pretext of protecting the Druze. Because this is the second one, and it was announced this morning. And the point chosen was really meaningful. This time it was an attack near the presidential palace. There was an attack near the presidential palace, and remarkably, the Israeli army announced it on its official account. But which point did they target? What was there? That was not specified. So this is actually saying directly that we are on your neck. If there is a development against our interests, we can shoot you or destroy you or put other plans in place, just like we shot near the presidential palace. So it is a message that can be interpreted like that, because they are not saying that there was a military threat and we hit it. An airstrike is organized directly at a meaningful point. Afterwards, Netanyahu and Katz have already issued a joint statement saying this was a very clear message, and their new demand is actually not new. Israel wants Suwaida to be a completely demilitarized zone. Look, Suez is on Syria's borders, within Syria's sovereignty. However, Israel has its own interests there. Since Suwaida is the region where the Druze live the most and it is in their sphere of influence, they want to occupy it too. They want to occupy it, or at least there will be no Syrian army troops or weapons there. Again, they stated this and said that this time no troops will be deployed south of Damascus, not in Suwaida. And the Druze must be protected. Otherwise, we are loyal to them, we support them, we will do what is necessary. So there is an attack that it could happen again. This is what Katz and Defense Minister and Prime Minister Netanyahu have said. Foreign Minister Saar also made a statement.
The world should intervene in Syria. Foreign intervention, and there's a call, there's a request. Is it really about protecting the Druze? What is Israel's real purpose? What do you think is here in Syria?
You have come from a right point to another right point, namely the question, because Saar's explanation, in fact, it is not surprising, and it is not the first time. Saar has called for foreign intervention in Syria before, but he did it through the YPG, through the terrorist organization PKK-YPG, calling the Kurdish minority, saying, of course, the world should protect the Kurdish minority. Because Turkey has a cross-border operation plan, he had made such a discourse and call again, this time over the Druze minority. The Druze minority must be protected and the world must intervene. The international community should not stand by and watch this. This is actually a confession of a policy that Saar had expressed before, and a key point that allows us to understand this whole picture, because Saar said this before. We have nothing to do with minorities in Syria. We need to forge an alliance. The minorities in Syria are our natural allies. The Kurds, the YPG, the terrorist organization PKK-YPG is our natural ally, he said. But not only that, the Druze are also our natural allies because Israel wants to make Syria weak by dividing it over sects.
Invitation, does Israel want a war? Let things get messy in Syria. The The new regime has arrived and a new government will be formed there. A constitutional work has been started and so on. The order there should not function normally. Is it in Israel's interest that there is chaos there?
Yes, it will benefit Israel because at least they openly state this. Because when we look at it, a strong Syria means a Syria that has restored its territorial integrity and internal peace and has increased its military power again. It means a country that will be able to hold to account for the occupation and annexation of the Golan Heights, because the residual agreements made during the Assad era can also be reversed. This annexation and occupation area, which Israel has unilaterally changed and expanded in its favor, is already known. The new administration may want to reverse this when it gathers its military power in order to prevent such a possibility and to prevent the new Syrian government from entering into an unforeseen engagement with Iran, because Israel is completely based on threat perception and hostility. It is used to justifying all its policies of annexation, occupation, and war. It has become a country that does not apply this in every country, not only in Palestine, but also in Lebanon and Syria. Therefore, this whole process of civil war and the very difficult test that Syria is really going through, that is to say, it is very difficult to establish a new state, to establish control, and to try to run it together with a revolutionary process within a complex ethnic, religious, and minority structure. And on top of that, foreign intervention and Israel's destabilization, not stability, but instability, especially instability in neighboring Arab countries. The reflections of the process of making it a norm, an ordinary situation. This is why Turkey has a reaction. This is why these problems can be solved through dialogue. These problems can be solved. However, with such interventions and Israel's policies in the region, which can actually hit itself, Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan also said this. The steps Israel is taking right now, the steps it is taking in Syria, may turn back on itself in a worse way tomorrow. Because instability can pave the way for the formation of more unpredictable groups or situations. But we really hope that this situation, which is close to Syria's border with Israel and which has spread to the south of Damascus and which is intended to be produced and sustained through the Druze, will not reach a dangerous point.
But it seems that Israel will try this a few more times. At the very least, it looks like they will continue their threatening rhetoric and even foreign intervention rhetoric. Suhaila, let me thank you very much. Yes, this is the latest situation in Syria.